Hi everybody, this is Storm, and this is the next video in the series of the Enhanced Client videos. And today we're going to be going over how to set some of the options in the main menu and what some of those options are for. So the first thing we're going to start is by hitting the escape key and bringing up your main menu. And as you see, I'm using Pinko's UI. Some of your, if like you're running the default or you're using one of the other mods, it may look a little bit different, but pretty much they're the same. First one you have is obviously your logout key. That's pretty self-explanatory. Takes you back to the screen where you can log in with a different character. The exit game. This was going to take you straight out of the game and close everything up for you. The one we're going to be spending the most time with is going to be user settings. So you click on that, and we're going to go into user settings. And as if you see here, we have several tabs. If you're using the default, you're going to have graphics, input, sound, options, legacy, and filters. To start with, we're going to start off with the graphics tab. So you're going to want to highlight that if it's not already highlighted. And up here at the top, you have your first thing is use full screen if checked. This is what most people run it in. If you're running in screened, have this unchecked and you're running in screened, and you're experiencing any kind of lag or anything like that, you might want to try running in full screen. The next thing is your resolution, and you have a bunch of different options in here depending on your what your monitor and everything will accept. And this is basically just the size of your play area of your screen. Yeah, I have mine set on 1366 by 768. If I was to make it smaller, the black areas around the screen would get bigger. Then you have frame rate. Usually frame rate should be set to match what your monitor is. If you're having problems, you can try going with a lower setting. I run mine at 60 because that's what my display is set for. Now you have show window frame. Now, in full screen mode, this doesn't do anything and you're not going to see anything. But if you're running in windowed mode, by highlighting this, it's going to put a little window frame, basically, around the screen for you. The next thing is brightness. That's pretty self-explanatory. I've got mine around 50%. If you want it brighter, turn it up. And usually after you change any of the settings, you need to hit apply down here to have them take effect. Sometimes you'll have to do a restart. The next thing we have here is show foliage. Now this is pretty self-explanatory too. As you see, these trees and everything don't have any foliage on them right now. Well, that's because I have it turned off. If you turn it on, you're obviously going to see leaves and things like that. Turning it off helps increase performance. It also helps with if you're on your ship and the mast and things are in your way. By turning off foliage, this will get rid of the mast for you, so you can actually see yourself under, as you're walking around under your ship or picking things up. Show mob shadows. This is pretty self-explanatory too. As you can see, I have a shadow underneath of me. If I turn that off, then the shadow is going to go away. The next thing we have is enable VSync. I have mine disabled. If you have problems with the screen tearing or things like that, you can go ahead and enable it. I haven't heard of too many people that need to use this option. The next you have use circle of transparency. Now, everybody knows what this is. This is, so you can see through walls, behind trees, under bushes, etc. Later in another video, there's an external option where you can put a little icon and turn it on and off by just pushing the button, or you can always use Control-C. So, or you can just have it on all the time and, check the box right there. Now, enable hardware death effect. Now, this is when you die. There's certain visual components that are turned on and off while you're dead. Some people have experienced problems with this, so most people run with it off. I'm not sure if they have fixed the problem with it yet, so you'll just have to check it out and see how you like it. Particle detail. Now this is an important one. The higher you have all these set, particle detail and things like that, the more performance issues you could run into. So if you're experiencing lag, it's not loading fast enough, your screens aren't loading fast enough, you might want to set this to low. Sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, I have mine set to high, but this is like your spell effects and things like that. Then, of course, you have a particle filter, which you can change whether it's just filter everything, your party target, player target, or none. Then you have idle animation. Now, this is, for instance, I have mine set on low right now. But idle animation, if you see my gargoyle is in fly mode, but my wings aren't moving. Now, if I had idle animation turned on, I would be sitting there and my wings would be flapping. Or if you're a human, you would every periodically be doing the gesture where the arms go up and you yawn, and things like that. And like I said, if you change any of these settings, you're going to want to hit apply down here. And like for the idle animation, you have to restart, close down, and then load back up for it to take effect. And that pretty much ends the graphics tab. Now we're going to look at the Input tab. The Input tab is basically controlling what the keys on your keyboard and your mouse wheel and your mouse do. To start with, it's talking about your mouse wheel, and you can set it for a few different options in here. Right now I have mine, if I scroll up, it targets the next enemy, and if I scroll backwards, it targets the last enemy. You can change this to different things like zooming your map, and there's a bunch of different options in here that you can select and play around with and see what fits your playstyle the best. Now we go down, and you can set your key bindings. If you're like used to playing the classic client and you want to have the same key settings as what it has, then you can select this option. Or you can go with the defaults for the enhanced client. Now, if you want to change any of these keys, you just click on the one you want to change, and a little window will pop up telling you, well, hit whatever key you want to make it or want to change it to. So I'm going to leave mine as they are, but you can go down through all of these, and there's a bunch of different ones from nearest group target to target self, whatever ones you feel are appropriate, again, for the way that you like to play. And you can always go back to the default. And that pretty much ends the Input tab. Now we're going to take a look at the Sound tab. This is pretty self-explanatory and pretty simple. So the first thing you do is enable sound, or you don't have sound on. This is your master volume, how loud you obviously want it to be. You have sound for sound effects, how loud you want those to be. Whether you want music enabled or not to be playing all the time, like when you approach cities or dungeons, there's music that will play. And then lastly, while you're walking around, if you wanted to play the footsteps. And that pretty much ends everything on the Sound tab. Now we're going to take a look at the Options tab. The first option is, what language do you want? You have English, Japanese, or Chinese. Well, I'm English, so I'm going to go with English. Then you have to check whether or not to use English names. And then we have down here disk cache. I have mine set to maximum. Depending on your computer and how new it is, or if you have an older one, you may need to change these, but I have it cached uh, for max. And this is just determines how much memory the computer can use to do things like uh, rendering the houses in the area, things like that. Next option we have down here under game options is always run. This is a personal preference. I have it set to where I'm always running. Um, then you have auto run. Now this is you can set this to where you can click your left mouse button and then your right mouse button and make yourself run around and follow your cursor. Auto navigate around objects. This is whereas if you run into a wall, your guy will either try to go to the left or he'll try to go to the right. If you have this disabled, he'll just stop at the wall. Always attack. This means that if somebody attacks you and you're able, you will automatically attack back. And like it says, this is only enabled when the legacy targeting option is turned off. The next one we have is query before criminal action, and that's pretty self-explanatory. It's going to ask you if you're about to do something bad, whether or not you want to do it. Ignore mouse actions on self. What this does, and I'll show you here with a little example. If I try to click on me, it just ignores me. It doesn't see me. Now, I like that option just because if I'm casting spells or I'm doing something and my opponents are close to me, it keeps me from hitting myself. The next thing we have is hold the shift button down to unstack items. So if you're moving gold and you want to take a certain amount, you hold the shift button down to unstack. The next thing we have is shift right click to open context menus. That's pretty self-explanatory. You can have that on or off. I have it set to left click. The next thing we have is cursor target queuing, and that's pretty self-explanatory too. It allows you to queue the cursor target action before the targeting cursor actually appears. And this comes in handy sometimes, especially when you're casting spells and things. Now we get down into some important stuff here. This is where you can select in-game what UI you want to use. Right now, as you see, I have it set to Pinkos, but I could easily set it to the Copper, Default, or Lucius, or any of the other ones available that I happen to have installed. Now, your UI scaling. This is going to scale the size of your different windows as a group. I have mine set at 0.9. If I remember correctly, if you have it set around 0.8, there can be problems with certain gumps like your imbuing gump, which, let's see if I can give you an example here. We're going to try and imbue an item. If I can find one that... There we go. Now you see how my window is here and everything. And all the numbers are showing fine on there. If I was to have it down at around 80%, sometimes these numbers disappear. So if you see that happening, that just means you're going to need to change that setting. The next thing we have is the default container view. Well, here's my container, and I have it set on grid. So grid obviously just means it has the little lines. You have different options under here, like you have list view, which looks like this, or you can have the grid view. Same with a corpse. You can have it automatically, when you open a corpse, have the grid view or have the list view. Object handle filter. Mine is set to default dynamic objects, which that's when you hold the shift key down and the control key. You see all those little tags there? Now you can change that in here, what the default is set to, and you have corpse, NPC, NPC vendor, and mobiles. Also over here, you have the dynamic objects window. If you right click on it, you can also change it from over here too. Later on, I will show you where there's an option to turn that little window on or off. And also down here, you have the object handle quantity. Now you can select how many of them little tags show up, from 50 to 300 or all. And as you see, sometimes when you collect that, a lot of windows can come up, so you can kind of control how many show up. Show names. This is if people or animals or monsters are coming towards you. It will show their name and everything on the screen before they get there. You can have it not do it, or you can have it be on all the time. The next thing you have is to have show corpse names over the body. That's pretty self-explanatory. Always show health, mana, stamina. That's these little numbers in your window up here. If you turn that off, those little numbers will go away, and you'll just have the bar itself. And if I remember correctly, if you hover over it, the numbers will appear. Detailed tooltips. Let's see, we've got down here. Display pop-up window if somebody invites you to be in a party. You also have tip of the day if you want that to show up every day. I have mine turned off because I've read them all a million times, so it kind of annoys me now. Next, you have your overhead chat, and if you want it to appear over your character's head. And then you have, of course, how long you want it to stay on the screen. I have mine set for about 10 seconds. And then you also have the option to save your journal entries to a file that's called the chat.log. And that comes in handy sometimes if you want to save your chat. And that pretty much finishes up the Options tab. The next tab we have is the Legacy tab. Now, if you play the Classic client and you're used to Legacy style chat or the Legacy containers, Legacy targeting, or the Legacy paper dolls, and this is a new feature that we just put in, and it will make your paper doll show up more like the old style paper doll, and I'm talking about your character looks and everything. There's a few bugs with that right now. As you see, some of the footwear and stuff with the gargle aren't fitting quite right. But at least we have that option in there now, and hopefully they get it ironed out in the future. But anyway, this is where all your legacy settings are if you like them. And that pretty much ends it for the Legacy tab. Filters. Now we're on the Filter tab. In the Filter tab, we have the option to turn off or on filtering obscenities. That's pretty self-explanatory. You have the option to turn on or off ignore players. Ignoring players are people that you can add by the target or add from chat that obviously are annoying you for some reason. At one point, the town criers were always spouting off repetitive things, and they hadn't been fixed, so I added a bunch of the town criers in here just so they didn't show up over in my chat window all the time. And I think that pretty much ends it for the filter settings. And obviously, if you change anything, you always have to hit apply. Okay, the last tab we're going to work on is the Pinko's UI tab, and if you don't have Pinko's UI installed, then you won't see this tab. The first option is enable overhead spell text. This just means if you cast spells, the text will appear over your head. Enable English spell names. It means if you cast a spell recall, it's going to say recall over the top of your head. Enable SAD mode. When active, all overhead text will be at the same color as the default, and the English spell names will be automatically disabled. The next thing is text size. You can adjust the size of the overhead text as you see here, make it bigger, smaller, depending on what you want. You can change the speech font color or speech font to whatever you want here. You can do the same thing with names, spells, and of course your damage font. Your object handles here, you can change the size of your object handles. These are object handles. You get those by pressing the Shift to Control key at the same time. You can change the size, normal, medium, or small. You can also make it dull like you just saw there, or half dull, or transparent. The next thing you have is your center screen text. This is something Pinko has put in. This is where it'll show up on your screen. You can change that screen position by using this option. This is for like your hit points. You can change the percentage threshold or disable it. Same with your pets. You can also ignore summons, so that way your summons hit points don't show up. Then we have hotbar settings. Now you can set your default hotbar slots to have up to 12 spaces when they first start out. The other thing is you can have them be horizontal or vertical. Then we have down here container settings. Enable the grids for your containers. This is for the legacy setting if you want your legacy old style classic client containers. This is to enable the grid on your containers. Let's see down here. The next thing is you can change your background to extra bright like I have right now, or back to your darker color. You can also have it alternate between dark and light and dark and light. And this is the base grid color for your base grid line. You can change the colors of that. Now we have health bar settings. Enable health bars old style, to where you right click on them and they close. Same with the ones for pets. You right click on them and they close. You can enable that or disable that however you wish. Word of death button on the health bar. This means the health bar of your opponent you're fighting. When word of death becomes available for full effect on that creature, a little button will show up on their health bar. This option here just enables the Diablo style bars down here in the corner, as you see. Those are kind of neat if you like those. Then down here we have notoriety settings. You enable those, turns the little notoriety bars on up here, and you have different options to control the colors of that. And then you have enable item extra properties info. This is my favorite one. Basically, these options give you what you see over here on this katana I'm highlighting. Tells you imbue, tells you the different property weights, how much the intensity of the item is. At the top you see it says intensity, and that's in green. If it was in red, that would mean it was lesser. And then of course you have a gray color, which means that it could possibly be a relic fragment that it could unravel into. So you have anyway the different intensities there, and that comes in really handy for looting treasure and stuff like that. Now in your other settings here, we have enable block others paper doll, and that just means that if you double click on somebody, that their paper doll won't come up. Enable UC message. This keeps that message from appearing over here in your chat window, and sometimes if there's a lot of things going on, that can populate your chat window too much. This automatically enables war mode. You can either enable that or disable it depending on what you want. Enabling this button right here gives you the little war shield right here if you want that on there or not. Let's see. The next option we have is the lock chat line to the game window. This is the game window here, and it'll put your chat line right down here instead of over here where I have mine set underneath the window itself. Then we have enable Windows Snap, and just allows your windows to dock to each other. Enable UO Cartographer, that's pretty self-explanatory. If you use UO Cartographer, this will enable it. Of course, it's going to use up more memory that way. Then we have Enable Book Recorder. A lot of people really love this. If you have this enabled and you open up a book in the game, it will automatically log it to your game folder, and this comes in handy if you wanted to say post a book, what it said in a book on Stratix or another site. Next thing we have down here, enable hotbar menu maker. In the default client, you automatically start with your character hotbar. This here, if you enable this when you create a new character, it allows you to recreate that bar. Pinko has taken that bar out and allowed you to customize it. So this just gives you the option to kind of bring a bar like that back, or you can make your own. And we'll get into that in a later video. Enable map area facet combo. That's this section of the map right up here that says, like mine says Terramur, but you can change it to one of the others. That just turns this part of the map on and off. Auto close veteran reward gump. That's pretty self-explanatory. Turns the auto vet reward gump that comes up. If you're entitled to those, it'll automatically turn it off for you. Enable hourglass. This is the little hourglass that pops up. You can use it to time things like your crab pots. Comes in real handy for that. Enable server lines map. Now, this is the server lines map right here. This comes in handy if you're working near server lines, especially with fishing. We have set trap boxes here. This comes in handy if you use trap boxes, and you can set and unset them. Set loot bag and unset the loot bag. This comes in handy if you right-click on loot on a monster in the enhanced client, it automatically goes into your backpack. Well, now you can set it to go into a certain bag. And then you have the option here to have the gold either go in that bag or to go in your main pack. Over here we have enable clock, and that just puts a little clock down here on your screen, and you can right click and adjust it if you wish. And then the rest of these buttons down here are to change the text of, say, like your countdown text. If you cast a spell, a little countdown timer will come up, and it just changes the color of that. Now, say for instance you have a spell set to target cursor, like I have the Colossus set to target cursor. You see it's outlined in green. You can change those colors so you can easily identify what the target is for those. And that's what all of those are. And then, of course, you can change your overhead colors for like how much damage you're taking, your pet damage. You could change it to red, purple, whatever color you like the most. And then the last thing is your item color settings, and this just changes the color of the items over here. You see, like some of them are in yellow, green, etc. Like if you had a artifact, it would show up at the very top in purple, and you can change all of those. And that pretty much does it. Look forward to getting another video out to you soon on some of the neat functions of the enhanced client in general. And have a nice day.